Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. I'm excited to kick off our presentation on Mega Goal 2.2. This is Unit 8, and the theme is Sporting Life. Today, we'll be listening and discussing various aspects of sports and how they impact our lives. So, stay engaged, and let's get started. Today, we're going to focus on designing their own flags. First, I want you to show interest in what we're learning because engaging with the material helps you understand it better. As we go through, we'll look at some key words and their meanings to build your vocabulary. We will also practice matching words with their correct definitions, which will help reinforce your understanding. When you listen, try to catch the main ideas and details, because this will be important for your overall learning. And finally, our lesson objectives are clear. By the end of this, you'll know how to show interest, understand the key words, match words with meanings, and gather specific information to help you in designing your own flags. Let's get started. All right, let's take a moment to look at this picture and see how many sports we can spot. This is a fun way to challenge our observation skills and get us thinking creatively. Remember, sometimes sports aren't just what we expect. They can be represented in different ways or through different activities. Now, I want you to do this quickly, so we're going to set a 1-minute timer. During this time, try to identify as many sports as possible from the image. This exercise isn't just about counting. It's about warming up our minds and getting ready to think more broadly about what defines a sport. So keep your eyes sharp and your mind open. Once the minute is up, we'll discuss what you found and see how many sports everyone was able to spot. This activity ties into our overall theme of recognizing opportunities and thinking creatively in sports and other areas. So, looking at this slide, we're focusing on the Olympic Games. And here, we have a logo. Can anyone tell me which competition that logo represents? Yes, exactly, that's the emblem of the Olympic Games. It's a symbol recognized worldwide, representing unity, excellence, and friendship through sport. When we see this logo, we immediately think of the spirit of healthy competition and international cooperation. The Olympics bring together athletes from all over the globe, showcasing their talents and working towards personal and national achievements. This connects to our overall theme of understanding major sports events and their significance beyond just the competition itself. It's about how these games promote cultural exchange and inspire millions around the world. So, whenever you see that logo, remember it's more than just a symbol. It's a reminder of the power of sport to unite us all. Let's take a closer look at the 6 colors that appear in all the national flags of the world. These colors are quite special because they are universal and represent a sense of unity across different nations. Now, what do these 6 colors actually stand for? They symbolize the 5 continents coming together in friendship, emphasizing the idea of global unity and cooperation. Moving on to the 5 rings, which are a well-known symbol of the Olympic Games. What do these 5 rings represent? They symbolize the 5 inhabited continents of the world: Africa, the Americas, Asia, Europe, and Oceania, coming together in the spirit of competition and friendship. And how many rings are there on the Olympic flag? That's right, there are 5 rings, each representing one of these continents. This simple yet powerful symbol reminds us of the Olympic ideal, unity in diversity. As we warm up to these ideas, think about how symbols like these help us connect across cultures and borders, reinforcing the importance of friendship, cooperation, and shared values in our global community. So, let's explore some interesting facts about the Olympics. First, when did they become an international event? Well, the modern Olympics officially started in 1896 in Athens, but it wasn't until the early 20th century that they truly grew into the global phenomenon we know today. Next, who founded the Olympic Committee? It was Pierre de Coubertin, a French educator and historian, who established the International Olympic Committee in 1894 to revive and organize the Games. Now you might wonder, how much gold is actually in a gold medal? Interestingly, Olympic gold medals are made mostly of silver, with only a small amount of gold plating. For example, the medals from recent games contain about 6 grams of gold. Moving on, what was the top prize in the Olympics back in 1896? Well, actually, medals were not awarded at that first modern games. Instead, winners received a silver or a laurel crown, which shows how much the tradition has evolved. And speaking of athletes, how old was the youngest person to compete? The record goes to a 10-year-old gymnast from the United States, showing just how youthful talent can shine on the world stage. Lastly, when did the ancient Olympic Games begin? They date back to at least 776 BC, making them one of the oldest sporting traditions in history. All these facts connect to our overall theme of how the Olympics have evolved from ancient origins to a truly international celebration of athletic excellence. Let's start by exploring what a marathon actually is. A marathon is a long-distance running race that covers approximately 26.2 miles or 42.195 kilometers. It's one of the most iconic events in the Olympic Games, symbolizing endurance and perseverance. Now, who goes first in the opening procession? Typically, the host country's team enters first, followed by the other nations in a specific order, often based on the alphabet of the host country's language. The host nation then enters last, making a grand entrance to kick off the games. Moving on to sports that have been dropped from the Olympics, over the years, some sports haven't made the cut for various reasons. For example, sports like tug-of-war and polo used to be part of the Olympics but are no longer included. Sometimes, sports are dropped because they don't attract enough global participation or for other logistical reasons. Lastly, when did the first marathon actually start? The modern marathon was inspired by an ancient Greek legend about the messenger Phidippides, who ran from the battlefield of Marathon to Athens to deliver news of victory. The race was introduced as part of the first modern Olympic Games in Athens in 1896, capturing that historic spirit of endurance and celebration. All these points tie into our broader theme of understanding the history and traditions behind the Olympic Games and the sports that make them special. Let's think about a word that describes a game where two teams pull on a rope. This is a classic example of a tug-of-war. It's a simple yet powerful metaphor for many situations where two groups are in direct competition, each trying to pull the other in different directions. This image helps us understand the concept of conflict or struggle in a very tangible way. When we consider this in the context of our overall theme, it highlights how opposing forces or interests can be in tension, and how we might need strategies to manage or resolve these tensions effectively. So, finding the right word here isn't just about the game itself, but about capturing that dynamic of push and pull that happens in many areas of life and work. Let's find a word that means something used to start a fire. Think about what we might use when we want to ignite something quickly. It could be a small object or material that helps us light a flame easily. This concept is important because, in many situations, understanding the right tools or words related to starting a fire ties into larger themes of ignition, beginning, or sparking change. So, when we look for this word, we're essentially identifying a fundamental element that kickstarts the process, whether it's literal fire or metaphorical inspiration. Keep this idea in mind as we continue to explore how small details can have a big impact in our overall message. Let's explore this idea of finding a word that means a member of the military. Now, this might seem simple at first, but it's actually quite interesting because language has many terms that describe different roles and ranks within the military. When we think about a member of the military, what comes to mind? Perhaps soldier, sailor, airman, or marine. Each of these words specifies a particular branch or role. However, in a broader sense, there's a single word that can encompass all of these roles, something more general that refers to anyone serving in the armed forces. Understanding this term is important because it helps us see the military not just as separate branches, but as a unified institution. So, as we connect this to the overall theme of the presentation, recognizing the right terminology allows for clearer communication and greater respect for those who serve. It also helps us appreciate the diverse roles within the military, all of whom share a common identity as members of the armed forces. Let's explore the idea of a word that means excluded or removed from a group. This concept is important because it often comes up in discussions about social dynamics, team membership, or even data analysis. Understanding this term helps us better navigate situations where certain individuals or elements are left out. When we identify this word, it underscores the importance of inclusion and the impact of exclusion. Recognizing the term also helps us communicate more effectively about these issues. So, as we move forward in this presentation, keep in mind how crucial it is to be aware of exclusion, both in language and in actions, and how it relates to our overall theme of understanding group dynamics. Let's talk about how some of these traditions have been practiced over time. For example, the marathon, which has been revived in modern times, really connects us to ancient roots. The idea of commemorating significant events through a procession is another key point. These processions often originated as a way to honor important historical moments or figures. Understanding how these traditions originated helps us appreciate their significance today. They serve as living reminders of our shared history and culture. So, when we see a revived marathon or a procession, we're witnessing the continuation of practices that have evolved but still hold deep meaning. Let's take a closer look at these results. We see a pattern of false, false, true, true, and then two more false entries. What this really highlights is how certain factors or assumptions can lead us to different conclusions. The key point here is that not everything we expect or assume will turn out to be true. Sometimes, the data points us in the opposite direction. Recognizing these false and true indicators helps us understand where our hypotheses hold up and where they might need reevaluation. Ultimately, it underscores the importance of thorough analysis and keeping an open mind as we interpret data in the context of our overall goals. All right, for today's homework, please turn to workbook page 299 and look at exercise A. This exercise is designed to help you reinforce what we've covered today. I want you to work on it in pairs, so you'll be discussing and collaborating with a partner. This not only makes the learning process more engaging, but also helps deepen your understanding through conversation. Remember, the key points we've discussed are crucial. Pay attention to how they connect to the overall theme of our presentation. Use this opportunity to clarify any doubts and solidify your grasp of the material. When you're working together, try to explain concepts to each other, because teaching is one of the best ways to learn. So, take your time, be thorough, and have a productive session with your partner.